Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this masterclass. This is a master series on transitioning from manager to leader. And I'm doing a series on this for those of you out there who are working to develop yourselves, grow yourselves in your career, grow yourselves in your ability to lead. And so as we work through each section, I want to share some very critical pieces of information with you that you can actually take and apply in your field of influence so that as you go throughout your area and influence people, that you become more influential, that you become more impactful as a leader, and that the results follow. So if you are anything like I am, you like to see theory come to action. Get into action and then start producing results. That's exactly the kind of person I am, and I like those kind of people. So that's you. Then then you're with good people because that's who I is. All right. So this masterclass is about the forge, transitioning from manager to leader, and then knowing what to do, being willing to do it, and then doing it. Now, if you were with me in the last masterclass, I talked about geniuses, kind of your God-given genius for your life, that you have the most advanced ability to outpace others, and that was understanding those geniuses and then putting them into application. And one of my geniuses is wonder. It's that I have the ability to kind of see patterns and raise questions about lost potential, bringing and then very quickly grasp it out of the ether and put it into activity and start very quickly to make a plan for it to come to action, come to life, and start to take effect. And so as we work through these master classes, you'll find that very characteristic of the material. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me. If you can hear me, please type in the chat, I hear you. Anybody who's listening to this, type in the chat, I hear you, so that I can make sure that everybody can hear me. I think you can see me. Everything looks good on my side on the camera. If it's not, please ping me in the chat so that I can get it fixed up right away. Karina right here is behind the scenes, ready to rock, helping me run this thing. And so we'll make sure you're taken care of. By the way, anytime throughout this master class today, please drop a comment in the comment section if you have a question. If there's a question that you would like answered, if there's something that you would like me to elaborate on or you didn't quite grasp as I move through the material, because I move through things very quickly, especially when I get excited about stuff, and I'm very passionate about business. So when I move through stuff and I didn't quite address the thing that you wanted to do, I'm thinking through this from somebody who's been there and done it for many years. Maybe if you're just starting in this journey, I might just bulldoze through that without even thinking, oh, that's actually an element that would help somebody better understand it. So if that is you, please type it in the chat whenever you have a question, and I'll take a moment and address that as I can. All right. We become a manager. And there are so many preconceptions. We see it in the movies. We see it in the seminars. We see it on master classes. We see other leaders out there in the marketplace on the news. We hear about things and how things should be done. And so many of our preconceptions are just dead wrong. I think it was Mark Twain said, it's not what you know, it's not what you don't know that often gets you in trouble. It's what you know for absolute certain that's just not so. And I think that's very, very, there's a parallel to that statement and so many times into the leadership and management function, and actually the transition from manager to leader, that we just get wrong. The preconceptions that we should be like this, or we should behave like this, or we have to talk like a CEO. I see this all over Instagram. It's like, talk like a CEO. Maybe it's because I'm a CEO and it's like, talk like a CEO. And I'm like, I'm already CEO. What do we need to talk like a CEO? What are you talking about? And so I see that on Instagram. And there's so many different things out there that just are advertising and giving you these thoughts of how it should be, and maybe these kind of concepts of how things should be, without actually making sure that there's an underlying, undergirding foundation that really supports that information and what they're sharing. So the other part is many of us had really bad teachers who never did anything, but of course know everything. Reminds me of so many of my college professors. Like the college professor is teaching business, broke, never operated business, never hired a team member, never had to meet payroll, never had to get a marketing team member to produce, never had to figure out a commission compensation based system, never had to do any of that stuff, but has all the theory and can deliver it to you and knows exactly how it should be done. And so many of us have been taught by such people. And I was kind of one of those people back in the day when I started all this. And so all of the preconceptions that we have about what it is to become a leader and what leaders do, sometimes they can be overcomplicated, they can be over romanticized, and they can be very unproductive. And so that's why I'm doing this masterclass, because there's so many myths out there that we can debunk, and then we can charge through and actually get to result-based activity and very, very meaningful activity in our organization. So when reality hits, nothing can really prepare you for what it takes to become the leader for in your organization. If it's of your team, if it's of a section of your organization, or if you're the actual executive leader of your company, there's nothing in the freaking world that can prepare you for becoming a leader. I remember reading an article way back about 20 years ago, and it said, you know, the only thing that prepares you for becoming an executive in your organization or being a business owner is actually being a business owner. And I laughed when I read that. I was like, huh, I wonder if there's any truth to that. And over the years, I found out that to be very, very meaningful and very true. When reality hits, nothing can prepare you for what you're going to have to go through, whether you're making that transition from manager to leader, or you're that top level executive. So because reality differs so much, you start to get these three things very badly. Anxious. You get very, very anxious. And that may be the situation where many of you are out there today. And if that's you, you're in good company, because I have been very anxious in previous days, and I've worked through that. And throughout throughout this masterclass series, I'm working through you to help you develop a system in your life, in your operations, in your leadership, to be able to eliminate that type of stuff from your life, that type of reality in your spirit, that it doesn't have to sit with you at night, that you actually can sleep peacefully at night. Most nights, like 99.7% of the nights, I sleep very peacefully at night these days, because I've worked through developing and growing as a leader over many years. And in the ups and the downs, I typically sleep quite well, because I don't have an anxious spirit because of the work that we do through these types of master classes and what I'm showing here. You feel discouraged. I've been there, been very deeply discouraged, perplexed, and really burdened in my spirit about certain issues that are going on in the organization. And the thing is, if you're anxious and you're discouraged, how are you going to lead well? Because that's not something we describe a leader as, is it? Ladies and gentlemen, when you see a great leader, you look on the grand spectrum of all the leaders that you can see today in the countries around the world, and maybe great businesses or great leaders that you aspire to listen to on podcasts, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, or wherever their streaming is happening. You don't look at the leader and say, oh, he's very anxious and discouraged, so he's a good leader, do you? But sometimes we as leaders feel that way. How do we work through making that not be a reality in our lives anymore? And then a lot of times, especially early on, you're feeling severely overwhelmed, and that you will not make it to the next step, that you can't last another day. And so these are the types of things that we're addressing throughout all of these master classes, that I really hope that you glean some information out of this, and that you can apply it to your life and your operations, so that as you grow as a leader and your operations grow, that you're able to eliminate being anxious, being discouraged, being overwhelmed, and sleepless nights. Okay? Because I've worked through all of those, and I want to share how to work through those and develop systems in your life and your business to be able to win. So you have a choice. You can fight with the reality of these things, fight with reality, and just continue to use principles that aren't working and had gotten you here, because what got you here won't get you there, right? Or you can learn and grow. And the fact that you're here today with me tells me that you are a person who wants to learn and grow, improve themselves, and start charging forward to a whole new level of leadership and a peaceful working forward in your business, in your life, and in your team. So why do I have any merit to talk about this whatsoever? So my name is Jason Ellinger. I'm the CEO of Taika Translations and TVP Team. And we service people all around the world doing document translation, interpretation, 508 compliance, and many other type of virtual assistance and compliance services for government entities and official state organizations, state entities around the United States of America. And we've been in this particular business for about 16 years now altogether. And I've been an entrepreneur for 20 plus years by now, working through different types of businesses. And this is the one these Taika TVP Team and Taika Translations are the ones I've been in the longest here in recent years. And so if you would please like our video, like this channel, like this video, and subscribe to our channel, I would so greatly appreciate that. That would encourage me, encourage our team, and help us to continue to develop and create and bring this type of content to people around the world to help them grow and prosper in their lives, their businesses, and ultimately, I hope, hopefully help people sleep even better at night as they do so. So I think that's, so that why do I have any merit? It's because we've been in business for a really long time, and we've been profitable, and we've gone through some really hot, really deep lows and pretty amazing ups. Our companies are multi-million-dollar companies by now, and we operate on a global scale. And so, as that being my background and having that experience, I want to share and help other entrepreneurs out there to grow and prosper in their own environments. I'm also a father of 8 children. I've been married for 16 years. And have a lovely, beautiful wife. And my oldest child is turning 15 this month, and my youngest is 1 year old. So a lot of people in my household, and my wife and I work together in our family business. And so if you're a family operator, family owned and operated business, you're in good company, because I is one of you also. I'm also one of you. And so some people say that can't be done, but I'm here to say, and my wife is as well, that it's absolutely one of the most fulfilling and one of the most powerful elements in our business, my husband and wife partnership, charging forward together. It's also one of the most hard ones to work through if you're not aligned and on the same page and moving in the same direction. And I also help couples work through that in their own businesses to help people get aligned and start working together as a team. So, all right, let's get into the content today, guys. This is such an important lesson, because we learn to align with reality, and we are more of what our company needs us to be. It's a little warm in here, so if you see me wipe my brow, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sweating a little bit. I got out of the gym about an hour ago, got showered up, and got all prettied up to get on this masterclass today. And it's like, okay, but I'm still sweating. I gotta lower my blood pressure here. But anyways, let's get into the content. All right, so we're aligning with reality and being more of what our organization needs us to be. And anytime you can do that, in any class that helps you be more of that, that's something that you need to pay very close attention to, because if you can actually take and apply the material and actually become more of what your organization needs you to be, you'll be more valuable in the organization. You'll get promoted. You'll make more money. The organization will make more money, and you will see much better and brighter things happen in and around you. That's what's so exciting about this content today. So that's why this lesson is so very, very important. And I hope that as we work through the material, you'll be able to see exactly why. Now, again, this is a little bit different type of the material. We're not simply all theory. We're doing a little bit of theory, but we're doing quick boom, right into application. Then we'll do a quick recap, and then we'll charge forward. I'll let you know what I'm doing next week in the masterclass. So, all right, if we're good with that, let's charge forwards. All right, we first set up systems. All right, the first thing we do in order to be able to understand what we need to do and then be willing to do it and then go do that, is to set up systems that constantly give us feedback in our team, in our organization, and in our one-on-one interactions with the people that we work with, or even with our clients. But first and foremost, we get in and we set up systems for feedback loops. And when you do this, if you're a leader and you don't have constant systems of feedback loops, which is at the beginning, a lot of people are in that stage where they're like, well, I want to get to the stage where I don't have to create or participate in these feedback loops. And it's such a terrible way of leadership, way of thinking, because you never get to the point where you don't any longer have to lead. That is part of what leadership is. That is what we do. That is how we prosper over time. You are the bullet in the rifle. You're going out, you're killing something, you're dragging it home, and you have to get feedback loops to make sure you're on target. So we hire great people to work with. That's the second thing that we have to do. We have to become very good at hiring. Now, that's not what this session is about. I talked about that in another masterclass, and you can go check our content out and find that. And it's a really awesome masterclass where I work through how to hire great people really well. Go take a look. We develop programs and we develop products to give us information on what people want and how we can serve them better. And we launch and start making some money. And if that's the reality, everything should just keep working, right? It just that happens. It's all in place, and now it just works, and it works forever, right? In a perfect world, yes, but it's not the reality. Because why? Because markets shift, right? Governments change their policies. I've had All right, are we here? Can you hear me? All right, we're back on stage. Can you see the camera? All right, let me see. Let me switch some things around here. Let me get things back organized here. We just had something happen, which is a perfect example of what happens in business on this slide that I was just about to talk about. It's exactly what I was saying. Things happen. You're live again. Just continue. You're still live. You need to present. Okay. Do we have our presenting slide up? No, we do not. Slideshow. How about that? Are we good? Is that fine? Is our camera centered? Is the camera still good? Or am I way off center? Okay, 2 thumbs up. I'm getting 2 thumbs up. All right, so if anybody has any grievances about the camera, let me know, because I can't see exactly where we are right now and how I look right now on the camera. So if I look fine to you, we're going to continue on, okay? All right, so let's move forwards. In a perfect world, all right, let me go back one slide. Everything should just keep working, right? And that's why I was just cut off. The power shut down and all the videos shut off. But it doesn't keep working. In a perfect world, it does, but that is not reality. Could we have timed that more perfect? That was a really perfect timing for a place to shut it down. Market shift, governments change policy, products become obsolete, people quit, or we hire people that just are not performing whatsoever. People have problems. Clients don't always pay on time, or they go bankrupt. Vendors don't deliver on time. Product launches fall flat. Everything costs more than it should, and everything takes far, far longer than it should. There's a rule in business that goes like this. If you initiate any new thing in business, if you initiate any new and challenging thing or new objective, and you ascribe a budget to it, you ascribe a timeline to it, and you describe an end date when that's going to come to life and charge forward into reality, you're going to be able to offer it. Very quickly, you're going to find that it costs twice as much than you thought it did. Takes twice as long than you thought it was going to take, and that you are not the exception. That is a rule in business that not for anyone in the world is there an exception. So in a perfect world, these things are just happen, right? You make all these systems, you put all these things in place, you start making a little money, and everything just goes forward perfect. Well, at first. And then all this kind of stuff happens, and all of a sudden, you're not in that boat anymore. So what do? Do we throw out everything we've learned? Do we just throw out all the theory that we've learned out the window? Do we just can it because it just it was relevant, and now all of a sudden it's not relevant anymore? What the heck do we do? All your preconceptions are tried in the furnace of reality. All preconceptions that you have about business, leadership, and becoming that great leader from a manager that you thought were reality, they're tried in the furnace. I'm sorry, you thought were true, are tried in the furnace of reality. It is a forge that ultimately purges out all of those misconceptions. And so leaders never stop learning. And that may be why you're watching the video today, which I applaud you for that. Kudos to you for that. There is hope and there is a way forward, even through all of the challenge situations that we face, because you want to give up. You want to throw in the towel. You want to say, well, heck, it's just not worth it. But it is worth it, and there is hope and a way forward. So let's get into that. If you hire great people and you're letting them run free in your organization, great. People are awesome. But people are also very, very complicated. How do we really decide what is required of us as a leader so that our business can prosper? The step number 1 is this. Our first order of business is to set up critical and consistent connecting points with our team. This is probably the number one most violated thing that I see any leaders do, is to set up critical, consistent connecting points with their team where they actually know what to do in those connecting points. And this is one of the things that I work with, and I hands-on literally train my leaders, my direct reports, in these things. Because as our company grows, and as the department grows, and as the person grows, they will be required to be able to do these things really, really well. And to the extent they do them well, we can prosper together. To the extent that they do not do them well, I as a leader can't perform well, and I ain't going to have that, right? So I want my leaders to perform well so that I can perform well, so that we can perform well for our an entire organization, and that we can actually do what we set out to do in our vision. All right, so what is that? What is critical, consistent connecting points? It is robust, it is intimate, and it is consistent. I mentioned consistent multiple times, and there's a reason. Because one of the biggest problems that leaders have is staying consistent over a long period of time. When you can stay consistent over a long period of time with the activity that you do that's actually helping and causing your business to prosper. Sorry, I'm moving a screen as I'm talking to make sure that I can see correctly here what I'm looking at. When you can do this correctly over time, and you do it again and again and again, then you're able to create a system where you can win. So robust, intimate, and consistent. Remember those three terms as we continue through the slides. Oh. So how does that look? It looks like this. Weekly meetings with your direct reports. Like, why do we need to do weekly meetings? Why can't I just do them every other week? Or why can't I have monthly meetings? Do you want to transfer from being a manager to a real leader that gets real results? Then you need to do your one-on-one meetings with your team members, with your direct reports every single week, and you need to make sure any direct reports that your team members have, that they're doing them every single week without fail. If everybody's at work, we're doing our meetings. All right, the next thing is weekly leadership meetings. These are the feedback loops I was talking about when I initiated the conversation about how to understand what you need to do. These are mechanisms that you have to put in place in order to get the feedback. Daily stand-up meetings for each section. I'm going to go through these in just a minute. Don't worry. We're all going to be on the same page as we get to the end of this content today. But as I work through this, you need to realize that these are non-negotiable things that have to be a reality for you to be able to get the feedback that you need as a leader, as a manager, moving to become a leader, so that you can actually understand what you need to know and what you need to do. And then the weekly reports. These are mandatory Friday reports from your team. Now, weekly meetings with direct reports. Guys, there were years in my organization where we didn't do this. And once I initiated this into our organization, it changed like that. The very next week, it was completely different. It was like the air in the room shifted because we were better connected. This is what you do in those meetings. Now, I made an entire training on this specific thing. You can go back and watch the one-on-one meetings and how we work through that and do that very professionally and efficiently. But this, I'm going to give you an overview so that you know what the feedback loop is for you to be able to understand the things that you need to be able to understand that need to be done so that you can be about the business of doing them as a leader. Now, you ask the question in your one-on-one. Every week, what were you supposed to do? What did you do? What will happen between this meeting and next meeting? And what help do you need? What roadblocks do you need me to help you clear out as your leader? If you do this consistently with each team member and they are performing every week to your expectations, you will be able to increase performance and productivity throughout your organization in ways you would have never imagined before. Asking these 4 questions every single week and being on the same page is one of the biggest problems that leaders have in their work with their teams. Now, I've seen executives get to their top level of the CEO, become the CEO of the company, and they stop managing their direct reports. As if they got to that level so that they would no longer have to be bothered with these lower kind of activities in the organization that just bother them, that are frustrating, they're unpleasant. That is not an option. If you are a leader, if you want to transition from manager to leader, and by the way, the same CEOs, they don't last that long in those positions because very quickly their organization starts to have problems. And inside their problem, they don't know why. because they're not having these connecting points that they should be having, and they kind of graduated. They feel like they graduated from this position where all of a sudden I was a manager, now I moved to kind of a leader, and then I grew up the chain, and now I became the CEO of this organization, and I don't have to do that anymore. Well, I've got news for you. If you want your organization to stay in existence, and if you want it to grow, then you better make sure you're managing your direct reports. And now be very careful. I didn't say micromanage your direct reports, but I did say manage, which means you need to know what their goals are. You need to know what they're working on. You need to know if they need help. And you need to make sure that that's in alignment with the goals of the organization. So if you're doing that every week, it happens in the one-on-one, and then you don't go home and complain to your wife about why your team members they suck so bad, and they're actually not getting any of the work done, and there's some kind of drama. You already know about all of this stuff. All of this stuff is cleared up, and there is no big problems because you have your one-on-ones. When you ask your team member every single week, hey, what roadblocks do you need me to help you clear up? You address things. You hear an answer like, well, I guess I really don't need your help. Really? That kind of an answer tells me that you definitely need my help working through something. So let's talk about it. What is it? What's causing you to have trouble in your work? Or what's causing you? Well, so-and-so is saying this in the organization, and I'm not really sure. It's making me worried. I'm kind of concerned about this thing. And he said that, and okay, well, let me clarify what we meant when we sent out that message. And boom, you have an opportunity to share and to make that clarification. And it happens week after week after week. And when you do that, you get feedback from your team. You realize what it is that you need to do. So since you were able to get clarity from this team member about what happened, then you can go say, hey, so-and-so, I heard this in my one-on-one with my direct report, and I think it's very important that we don't spread that message anymore. And I just want to make sure, because you're the source of this message, that it stops. And all of a sudden, you find out what you needed to do, and then you went and did it. But being willing to do that is the most important factor, because we don't graduate in our role to a higher level of leadership so that we no longer have to do any management, so that we don't have to manage our direct reports. We don't do that. By doing that, we sabotage the success of the entire team and the organization. So my pro tip for you, do your one-on-one meetings every single week. Ask these 4 questions and make sure every single one of your leaders in your organization is doing their one-on-one every single week, asking these 4 questions. This is the first of the feedback loops that you need to have so that you can know what you need to do and be willing to do as you go about operating your organization. Weekly leadership meeting. Weekly. Somebody's like, why do you have all these meetings weekly? Guys, we want to win. We want to outpace others. We want to perform better, check in our results, and then drive to the next ones. Like, we want to freaking gun it. So how do you do that? Review what you've done, decide what you're going to do, and charge forwards. Review the desired future with your team. The desired future is an entirely different masterclass that we'll talk about on how to develop a strategic plan for your organization. But it is the statement of what you will accomplish in your organization this year, and every organization must have one, and every leadership team should be revisiting that throughout the year, barring some big catastrophic situation that happens to the organization or happenings in the marketplace, or this big massive disruption that was unseen or unknown about and unable to be planned for. Maybe like a natural disaster would even fall into a category like this. Okay, so some of that stuff influences and affects our organization, and it causes us to have to address that thing separately as we're working towards our strategic plan. And because of these things, because stuff changes so fast, and in the technology market, things change so fast, we have to be dealing with these things as they come. And the more times you get together with your team and get the feedback from your organization about what's going on, the faster you'll be able to make decisions about what needs to be done, and then you're able to start going and do that. So you deal with ad hoc issues, and they are resolved immediately in the weekly leadership meeting. You have a constant pulse check for the thematic goal in the organization. The thematic goal is like, okay, so you have the desired future for your organization. You're looking at, this is the 12-month plan. This is where we're going. However, a fire came through, like in California, right, and burned down our freaking building. we're going to need to change some stuff so that we can maybe either rebuild or rent a new office in the intermediary so that we can get back on our feet. So that means the thematic goal would be find a new place to do our business, or you get set up in a new, get operational again in a new space. That might be the thematic goal, right? And then you're able to work on that, and you have a constant pulse on what's happening in that towards that thematic goal, and you're moving forwards towards it. Okay, and then you get progress reports if everything is normal, barring the natural disaster situation. And by the way, why am I mentioning that? Because it's happened. It's happened in my operation, in our organization, and it happens in your organization too, and in your market. You just may not know about that yet if you haven't been in business that long in your space. But it happens. It could be a policy change in the government. It could be a market shift. It could be a disruption. It could be technology. It could be innovation. It could be anything. Fires, whatever. And you're able to make sure that you're keeping the pulse on your organization often enough to make sure you're checking in, getting the feedback, and understanding what exactly you need to do. And it comes from the weekly leadership meeting and the weekly one-on-one meetings with your direct reports. All right, the daily stand-up meetings, guys. Remember, these are mechanisms that you put in place. So once you put them in place, they start to give you constant feedback. All right, the daily stand-ups that happen every section of your organization. Every team member stands up and reports what they're going to accomplish by the end of the day. Now, for a long time, when I started my organization, I didn't initiate this policy. When I initiated this policy, I wish I had done it 10 years earlier, because it was the connectivity that you get, the synergy that you get, the performance that you get out of the team members, holding each other accountable and understanding what the heck the other person is working on, is so helpful that you can't do without it. And it helps you already understand in the moment what's happening, what will be done by the end of the day, and sometimes how you need to contribute to that or tweak that activity of a team member so that you're making sure that you're on target. You quickly reinforce clarity, and then you're done. This is a 10-minute meeting, max 15 minutes. And you're like, you say, guys, our thematic goal is this: enhance all current client relationships. So make sure you know what you're doing. So make sure whatever you're doing is in alignment with that. And if it's in alignment with that, you're good. You've got a lot of freedom. You've got a lot of leeway to do whatever it is you need to do, but make sure that's happening as you're doing this. And make sure that when we talk about what you're doing in your one-on-one, that you can support that activity that is actually doing this. Because if not, then it's the job of the leader to help redirect the activity to make sure that they're actually in alignment with the thematic goal for the organization. Okay, so these are the 4 things that you have to do in order to make sure. Oh, this is the 4th, actually. I'm sorry. I thought I was on the 4th, but this is the 4th. That was the 3rd. This is the 3rd. So weekly reports. Let's get into it, guys. What is the weekly reports? You measure 3 main areas plus a bonus area. You measure what the high was for the team member. I'm sorry. Here are the measurements: high, moderate, and low. They rate them that way: high, moderate, low, right? So you measure morale, you measure workload, and you measure stress. Again, what is the mononome? What is it? What is the periodicity? I don't know. How often? Weekly. This is weekly. So many leaders don't realize that this is the activity that happens weekly. And if you set this up, this is going to go a long way in helping you make that transition from manager to leader, because now you have information about what the organization requires. You know what the thematic goal is from leadership. You know what the annual objective is from leadership. And now you're transitioning from manager to leader by setting up the feedback loops. Make sure you're getting the information you need so that you can know what you need to do, work on, acknowledge, address, deal with, tweak, or direct, or maybe outsource, or maybe delegate, so that you can keep the organization moving towards a thematic goal. All right, so weekly reports. We measure workload, morale, and stress. Each team member, they rate it themselves, self-rated system: high, moderate, and low. And then you have a bonus section. What is your personal weekly high? What is your personal weekly low? And what else in is happening that you think that I should know about. And this is not exclusively in the business activity. It doesn't have, sometimes it has very little to do with business. Because there's one thing I've learned in business is, if you're going to stay in business, you're going to have to work with people. And people are people. They have people issues. They have people challenges. You can't treat them like a machine. They have to be, you and I have to deal with each other and relate to each other like people, and care enough about each other like people. And if we do that over time and be productive and efficient and effective, we get to win, and we get to win together. And that's super exciting. And when the storms of life come, our relationships are strong enough and they hold us together. When you just have to hold fast, you remember that Master and Commander, when that old guy, he put his fists together like that on the movie, right? And it was typed across his fist, hold fast. He had it tattooed on his hands, right? Helping the person know that sometimes there's going to be storms. And in those storms, we're going to have to hold fast and encourage one another. And it was a reminder to himself, but it was also a reminder to the others that sometimes in the storm, all you're going to be able to do is hold fast and encourage those around you as you go through it. And if you hold fast for long enough, and you work efficiently enough and effectively enough, and you hold fast together, you'll be able to win. And you'll be able to get to the other side and push through to that upward trajectory. Maybe you're breaking through the wall in business. You've heard me talk about that. If you've been listening to this content for a while, you've heard me talk about breaking through the wall of business and how challenging that can be and frustrating it can be. So team members write a 1 or 2 paragraph in each of the sections: morale, workload, stress, personal high, low, and anything else section. And then they submit it every single Friday, so you have a feedback loop. It's another feedback loop after you establish these. And yes, I know it does take some time. It really does take a lot of time. I mean, establishing these 4 rhythms in your organization, actually taking that theory that we just talked about and actually putting it into practice, is a little bit challenging. But once you do it, you get the pulse of the entire organization. And now what? Be ready to be involved where you're needed. Because now information is coming to you from all of these sources, and it's very robust, it's very intimate, and it's very consistent, and you're able to address issues in real time. And that's what real leaders do. Managers, they get some information. They don't have a lot of information that's set up for them. There's not a ton of consistency sometimes that they have. But if you want to move to a real leadership position, then you set up these things and you stay consistent. People say one of the hardest things about exercising isn't that you actually have to go pump the weights, pump the iron, right? The hardest thing is it has to be done every day for years. Okay, not every day, but I don't know. What's your exercise routine? 3 times a week for years. That's the hardest thing. You're never done. You don't get done being a leader. You don't graduate out of leadership if you're going to stay in business in any way, shape, or form. If you ever graduate out of it, then that means very shortly thereafter, you will wonder why your organization is like down here when it could be way up here in operational activity, in operational success and effectiveness. So these rhythms allow you to see what's going on in the entire organization, and then you also can see what is lacking. As you go, you're going to start to see patterns. You'll see blind spots, relational issues, activity issues needing correction. And what do? You as a leader have to realize that you must be willing to do whatever is required. So how do you do whatever is required? First of all, you have to be aligned with the organization and actually love what you do and why the organization exists. If you don't, please go get another job and do something where you actually can love what you do and the people you work with and why the organization exists. Because if you do that, you will be ready when the time comes to make the sacrifice, and it will come. In business, there is no work opportunity in any sphere that I have ever worked in, and I've worked in many different spheres, where you simply have none of these things. You will have the challenges. You will have the problems. There's no work ever that doesn't have drama, lack of alignment, breakdowns in clarity, relationship problems between team members, baggage, and even dog bites. Like this has literally happened. People have gotten bit by dogs and had to be out of work for a few weeks. And it happens. It affects productivity. Crazy. I mean, I've seen everything from the whole gamut. A guy fell off his roof, right? Everything. All this stuff happens through the process of doing business. And you as a leader, if you were if you were bought into the organization, you want to actually make a difference in the organization, lead these people well, then you're going to start seeing these through your feedback loops. And then you must be willing, because you're tied to the organization, to do that. I mean, business has required more. Being a business owner requires more sacrifice. It requires more work hours. It requires more concentration and focus and passion and reminding than I ever conceived it possibly could have required. But because it's tied very, very deeply to what I want to achieve ultimately in life, and the people that I work with, because I love them so dearly, and they're working with us on a trajectory that's going to take us to incredible heights, and we've already achieved so much together, that the journey creates this incredible and meaningful experience for all of us who are involved, helping us lift each other to the very next level. When we started our organization, I was nowhere near where we are today. Health-wise, wealth-wise, mental capacity, ability to perform, wasn't anywhere near. But now we've moved to completely different levels. And I've moved to those levels with my team. And it's an incredible experience. And I want more of that. And if you want more of that, then you have to be bought into the organization, get your feedback loops, giving you the data, and then being willing to be able to do what is required to have the conversations where you're needed to have the conversations, to correct and see the blind spots, and to correct the issue and deal with and work with through the challenges that each of your team members may be facing. Maybe a new baby is born. Maybe somebody needs to celebrate their birthday because their father never called them on their birthday, ever. And a special call from you might be what is required. Maybe somebody has a family member in their life who's struggling very deeply and they can't help them, but you as the business owner could step in and make a difference in a very meaningful way. And so you go and you do that, and then you help your team that way. Or maybe there's clients that have a very big and challenging problem, but your team, they've been working really hard and they've been working for a really long time, but your team looks at you and says, look, this client of ours has this thing. We're a team. We love that client. Let's serve them really well. Make it happen for them. And not only does that bond you to that client for life, it bonds you as a team, and it demonstrates incredible character in and throughout the organization that you have to lead. And so you start to very deeply, intrinsically see how you can understand what you need to know as a leader, and then get about the business of doing it. Managers become leaders as they effectively prepare themselves to deal with the unforeseeable challenges and solve them with their teams consistently, again and again and again and again, and never stopping. Managers become leaders when they prepare themselves to deal with unforeseeable challenges consistently. Craig Rochelle says to pre-decide to deal with and accept that the challenges will be there every single day, and that you'll you will work through them in alignment with your values. Winston Churchill also said that. I come to work each day expecting there to be great challenges to deal with. And he led through one of the most tumultuous times in history. And he said, I just come to work expecting everything to be a disaster. And it makes me so much happier when not everything has fallen apart. At least one or two things are okay, even if 6 or 7 are a complete disaster. And then we get to work through the day. So you expect that and prepare yourself, because now you have systems in place that you don't just get completely caught off guard because you have systems in place that are giving you feedback, that give you the information that you need to help you identify the activity that you need to be doing, and you can address it, and then you can get to the next thing. Because every big problem was once a small problem that a leader failed to address. Don't let your problems become big problems, because they were once small problems and you failed to address them. So let's recap, guys. Let's recap this. And by the way, please, if you have a question, set it in the chat right now. I really appreciate it, and I will get to it as soon as I get a break in the slides. So, step number 1: set up a robust, intimate, and consistent information gathering system. Feedback loop coming in. The meetings, the meeting rhythms, and if you need help, contact our team. I help people set up these, work through these meetings, and implement them into your organization. I'd be happy to help you do that for your organization today. Pre-decide to be accepted and deal. Pre-decide to accept and deal with the challenge. I see the typo in the slides. Forgive me for that. Pre-decide to accept and deal with the challenges. They're going to be there. Accept and deal with them. Pre-decide. I will deal with the challenges as they come. And now that I had the feedback loops to prepare me for the smaller ones, just so I can deal with and get through them, I don't have to worry as much about the big sweeping challenges that just completely clean house. Manage direct reports. Each leader on each level. You never graduate from managing your direct reports. When you do, you've given up on being effective as a leader. Don't do this. If you want to serve your team well, if you want to prosper beyond where you are right now, then you have to continue managing direct reports. Please give us more clarity. Here's some clarity. Don't abdicate your responsibility. Ensuring accountability weekly. Don't expect high-level executives or any team members to, or just trust them to manage themselves. Don't expect that, because you're expecting something that's impossible. And when you expect something that's impossible, you're destined to be disappointed. Like, you will absolutely be very disappointed. So manage your direct reports. Have difficult conversations. Have difficult conversations and hold team members accountable for their actions. When a team member said they were going to follow up and do something, it's not unkind to say, team member, have you done that thing? That's not micromanagement. That is following up. That is holding team members accountable. Have you done that thing? Oh, you haven't done that thing. Why haven't you done that thing? Oh, okay. So when will that thing be done? Those are normal managing questions. And if your team members get angry, that's a conversation for a different problem. We get to coach someone into being a good team member, or coach someone out if we have to. In any case, focus on performance and results rather than popularity as a leader. You will be temporarily unpopular at times, but believe me, if you are successful overall and you have the right people on your team, you will be popular enough over time. But being unwilling to be temporarily unpopular is a curse to great leaders. You must be able to be temporarily unpopular so that you can be successful over time, because holding people accountable is not a comfortable experience for everyone. And that is sometimes challenging to hear, and it will make you slightly unpopular. And that's okay. It happens. But over time, if the entire organization is successful, how do you think that's going to impact your ability to lead and your popularity? It's going to impact it in incredible high levels. The longest standing team members on our team have a very deep respect for each other, for their previous successes, their previous challenges, how they work through, and how they currently work through issues in their sections. We have a very deep respect for one another because we've seen what they've done in the past and we know what they're capable of. And even though sometimes there's a temporary unpopular thing that they have to deal with, we know that over time, each team member in the appropriate time will be more popular. So don't abdicate your responsibility for these things. Ensure accountability, have difficult conversations, and focus on performance and results rather than simply being popular. I got to get a drink of water, guys. Okay, so this is how you find out what is required, then do it consistently. This is how managers move from being managers to leaders, find out what is required in their organization, and then do it. The hard part is it's consistently necessary. You're never, ever done. And is it worth it? That's kind of a question that you need to ask yourself, because you better have a valuable vision or you're going to give up. You better have a really, really, really valuable vision. That's why next week in our masterclass, in this master series, going from managing to leading, if you don't have an underlying vision for your life and your organization as a greater whole, as a whole doesn't have a vision for it, you will find yourself getting to the top of the ladder and be leaning against the wrong building. And so I'm going to be doing masterclass next week on how to establish your personal vision in the Forge, transitioning from a manager to a leader. How to establish your personal vision. I'm doing this on an individual level first rather than the company level, because you as a leader, if you have no vision for your life, if you have no directional ontic referent or that North Star guiding you, how can you know where you should work, where you should be contributing, where you make the biggest impact, and how you can buy in to an organization? You can't. There's no possible way. And if you don't do that, you will never be the most effective leader that you could be. Because every team member, if you in your life, you have to know for sure that place where you are and where you're serving and sacrificing, working in each and every day is where you are best practicing and carrying out and living out your vision for your life. And so, guys, don't miss next week's masterclass, because as we talk through establishing your personal vision, it is a life-changing material. And I know not everybody's great at finding, well, you can't actually make a plan for your whole life, because if you make a plan and God just comes in and wipes it out. I understand all of that. I also understand if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I also understand that God has a plan for each and every one of our lives. And we ought to be about the business of finding it throughout our lives to be able to understand what the heck it is that we're actually supposed to be doing. So join me next week for this incredible masterclass where we're working through establishing your personal vision. I think you won't regret it. And I think it will also help you make more money, be happier, sleep better at night, and live a more meaningful life. So anything that does that kind of stuff for me, I definitely want to make sure that I'm taking part in. And so hopefully next week, you'll be able to enjoy that session with us as well. So thank you so much for listening to me today. I know it was a long masterclass, and I'm very sorry that we got cut off right in the center. The power shut off and everything went black on my screen. That was kind of bad, but we got back online and here we are. So thank you for spending time with me today. And I look forward to spending time with you again next week, Wednesday at 8:30 Eastern, 9:30 Central, where we're going to be talking about establishing your personal vision for your life. And I think it's going to be very exciting, hopefully eye-opening, and hopefully help you move yourself a little bit closer from being a manager to an actual incredible leader, impacting your lives, the lives of those around you, and lifting yourself to that very next level. So I'll see you there.